Hey there, friend. JhN here, and today I'm going to be sharing about a profound experience I had while I was on a meditation retreat, the Vipassana retreat, a 10-day silent meditation retreat in Joshua Tree. I really want to open up more about my own spiritual awakening and journey so that others can relate and get hopefully inspired, and also maybe learn some stuff to help them along their journey, and maybe this retreat would be a perfect fit for you. If you're new to the channel, just want to say thanks for stopping by. This is my own very intimate personal journey, and I also teach people and mentor and write and author and all this other stuff. But here I just want you to be able to get to know me a little bit better and see that just a normal guy who is really investing in his own spiritual growth and awakening. So thanks for subscribing. If you're returning, thank you for checking out this video. So I'm just gonna start talking about this really amazing, epic spiritual adventure. It was 2016, and it was the summer. It was July, and this Vipassana retreat is a 10-day retreat in which you go and it's completely silent. So you're not speaking, you're not even really making eye contact with people, or at least you're trying to avoid it. They have everything worked out for you. I was in a room and sharing that room with another guy. They separate the males from the females, even in the big meditation room, females on the right, males on the left. And then you can bring your own little stool, your own cushions, whatever. I decided to sit on a chair. That's where I feel best meditating. So I was in the back of the room on the chair, and you're meditating about 10 hours a day. You wake up at 4 a.m. and you go have your meditation then. Then you basically have breakfast eventually after the long meditation there. And breakfast was the biggest meal of the day. And then you're meditating all again for many hours. And then you're having lunch. And then you're meditating again. Then you have what's called like tea and fruit, basically, if it's your first year, if it's your second visit there, first time. But if it's your second visit, then you actually just have tea, you fast. So from the evening all the way through to the next morning's breakfast. But then after that tea, you're meditating again. Then there's a lecture and then another meditation. So, and then a lot of us would walk the desert because they had walking paths in Joshua Tree. And so you'd walk out there and just kind of being real mindful of stuff that's going on within yourself. And, so this app coincided with the 2-year anniversary of my wife's passing, and I knew I needed to do something like a really intense spiritual sabbatical, and so this was a perfect fit for me. And Vipassana, for the first 3 days, you're just doing what's called Anapana, where you're just focusing in on the sensations going in and around your nostrils, and you're really trying to be aware of that. I did cheat a little bit because I have other meditation background, and I was trying to do some other stuff, so I wasn't supremely focused on just that because I had my other goals and ambitions, and I don't know if that's right or wrong. I'm sure people will have their opinions, but I was writing a novel in my heart and my mind, so I would take mental notes of things that just kind of would appear and drop into my heart for the story and take note of that. Also, a lot of spiritual stuff was happening. My whole goal there was to get closer to enlightenment, to ultimately achieve enlightenment, but to cross that bridge. And I feel that I came very, very close. And from what the research I've done about other people stepping into enlightenment and coming to the lead up was similar to what I experienced there, but I didn't cross that line into enlightenment. And I've discussed, if you've seen some of my other videos on my spiritual path, that I believed that I became enlightened at a certain point in time through a very, very profound meditation experience. It was not enlightenment. Of course, enlightenment is, you're not going back. You're either enlightened or you're not. So you don't just have a little dance with enlightenment and then go back to like normal consciousness. So I know after a lot more education and everything that I was not enlightened, but I thought I had a kind of a kiss or a dance with enlightenment. But here I was going for the real thing, the whole thing. And a lot of intense things will happen as you progress through your days there. So the first 3 days, you seeing a lot of people are leaving. They're the hardest days to get through because people are not committed. I knew I wasn't leaving, so it really wasn't hard for me to stay committed. I was there because I wanted the space to be free of distractions and to really just focus in on my meditation. So although it was challenging, that's what I was there for. So I really actually enjoyed my time every single day. And then just seeing how your mind progresses through, sorry, I have a 4-month-old, so up all night, but your mind progresses through the different stages of releasing distraction, of not talking and all this other stuff that you take for granted in your normal day-to-day life. But I'm here to share about, again, yes, the Vipassana, but some very profound things that happen. So I have been, in previous meditations, been able to take myself to past lives, and I've seen some extraordinary things. So, and with the help of a past life regressionist is how I learned that, and then I was able to replicate that process and do it myself. But within Vipassana, I was entering in that space, and I was seeing some past lives with some dear friends of mine, and that was supremely profound because you realize how vastly important certain relationships are here, because you are soulmates or soul brothers, soul sisters. And so that really cemented that for me, for a few friends that are in my life, that super profound. But what was really, really profound is that I was trying to be in this space where with Vipassana, you end up doing body scans after doing the Anapana. And so I would be doing the body scans, but I'd also be taking my awareness to the external, not through sight because my eyes are closed, but through sound. So I was intense focus and concentration on any sound. So it's kind of like a sonar beep, that anything that I would hear, my focus would go there. And at the same time, you get extreme clarity and focus scanning your body. I feel like I was getting to be able to scan my muscles and skeletal system and nervous system and adrenal system and everything. Like, you get this very deep focus, and you get insanely in touch with the inside of your being, your body. And so I'm doing all this, and I always make this comparison with my students and who I'm teaching. You're trying to crash the mind. The mind wants to bring in a thought, and you don't want to be like, no, go away thought. You just don't want to have attachment to that thought staying. And so the way that you can do that is through these anchors, where you're really focusing on your breath, following that in and out, and that undulation and your diaphragm. You're also focusing on the scans through the body. So basically, you are just on the highest alert possible, highest focus and attention, and you're training your mind to look through your entire body, doing these body scans, and I'm taking the attention into the external, listening to these sounds, feeling the sensations. My mind is just getting bogged down, kind of like a website that has too many visitors. It can't handle all the traffic, and so it crashes. You're crashing your mind in that sense with this intensely focused and elevated concentration. And through that opens up a space of awareness. You're getting acquainted with self. And I felt a deepening of that presence, kind of like a crescendo, just building and getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And this would be through an hour and a half, 2 hour meditation. And the focus was so intense that I afterwards sometimes would be just covered in sweat, because it's just overwhelmingly exhausting to have that kind of mental focus for so long and trying to be without thought. So on numerous occasions, I was in that space and I had found it. And you come into this zone where a thought would enter, and it would be like a nanosecond before it would disperse. So the whole thing was not holding on to that thought, and then really holding on to the space of thoughtlessness through the body scans and through, again, all the other sensory awareness. My mind didn't have the bandwidth to take in more, and that was my objective. And within that space, I started experiencing some stuff. So I felt like I was gaining momentum and on this pathway to the dissolution of ego, to enlightenment. And my heart started beating immensely fast and out of control, like 200 beats a minute, and just going nuts. And I remember in that saying like, oh, you're going to die. Like, but I couldn't have that thought. I'd have to just have this knowingness that if you really want this, you have to see it through. So you just have to keep going. You cannot be scared to die. You cannot be scared to have a heart attack right now. You have to push forward. And ultimately, through that process, what was happening with my thoughts, in the beginning, you're having thoughts that are just so surface level BS. And it was anything to hook you. Any kind of thought the ego would put a thought out there to try to hook you, to get your concentration, the focus on the thought. Because once you did that, then you kind of fell back down the steps to that surface level of attention and concentration, because you're having thoughts. You're trying to get away from that. And so I saw an escalation in the importance of my thoughts, things that I regarded as important in my life. Because if it was just like, oh, you got to get dry cleaning, or I wonder what your friends are doing outside of this while you're in this retreat, those ones I could easily displace. They're not very important. But then it was like, oh, let's think about Jessica's death. And I was like, I'm not doing that right now. And then it would be like, well, maybe you screwed up while taking care of her. So my thought was getting more serious. And then it was like, oh, you want enlightenment. If you become enlightened, I remember this being like the final thought that broke me and that actually got my attention. And then I tumbled outside of that really heightened focus, was, if you become enlightened, your friends, your loved ones will despise you. So I noticed the escalation in intensity and importance of thoughts, basically of hooks, of things that were trying to get my attention, that the ego would first just use these surface level kind of thoughts, and then it would increase and get more important, because I was able to cycle through and escalate my way all the way up. As my heart, it feels like it's going to explode. So I'm sitting there just in that meditation, and your heart is sweating, and then just cycling through those thoughts to be supremely present in the now. And I remember that at the end, the highest I got, I don't know what would come after that, but that was to me the ultimate importance at that moment of who I was, of the temptation, that Buddha experienced before his enlightenment, of being offered everything by the demon spirit, and Christ, where he was brought up to the top of the mountains and said, all this can be yours, the temptation from the devil. Like, I feel like it's a very personalized thing, obviously. And so for me, the temptation there was like, if you are enlightened, you're going to lose all your loved ones. And so I was like, oh, geez, that is terrifying. And then I latched onto that thought and tumbled back down. My heart slowed. I came back in, and then it was like, oh, regular thought. And so I noticed something very profound, that I feel that is the stage towards enlightenment, and that whatever happens after that really immense thought, and if you're able to stick with it and not be fearful of your heart exploding, you will finally cross the bridge into enlightenment. And so it is intense and extremely hard, and that took several days to get into that position, several days of 10 hours of meditation a day, not really having a focus, just focused on being thoughtless. So very intense thing, but very, very profound. And I remember in the middle, one of the day seven, I think it was, I was trying to do this multiple meditations, and I was getting better and better, like 2 hour, 1.5 hour kind of meditations. I would just get to that place and my heart would go absolutely nuts, and I would maintain that thoughtless state, but I wasn't able to get beyond. And I remember sitting there and getting frustrated afterwards and being like, I went outside, and you're in the desert, and I remember being out in the sun and looking up to the sun, and everybody's around, ruminating and doing their own thing because we're not talking. And I remember thinking, like, why is this not happening? And looking up at the sun, and I felt this energy, like a big droplet, hit the top of my head and expand inwards. And with it, the word patience, like, just dropped into me and like came down like honey. And I got this overwhelming sense of peace, and that I can't be frustrated and like longing for enlightenment. That's not the point. Just to be at peace. When it will happen, it will happen. And it was like so profound. It made me like tear up, because I knew I felt like it was an ascended master, Christ, Buddha, like something very high, not of my higher self, not my angels or my spirit guides, my mentors, something much more profound that came to visit me in that moment to say patience. And it was really, really touching and moving. And in the meditations too, I wasn't able to get beyond that, obviously, but I made extreme progress, and I feel like I got a really good grasp on what to duplicate for myself once I'm able to kind of commit to having a very big meditation experience again, like a nice sabbatical like that. But one other thing that happened, which was incredible, was I was thinking about the Garden of Eden and like the creation and the beginning and the serpent, and how that the original sin is actually our ego. That is what we were granted, and then with that is what we're supposed to kind of overcome. But the overcome means like the dissolution of the ego into self. And so I'm considering all that the ego is actually the original sin, and that once we get beyond that, we return to our divineness, our divinity. And it all kind of came together. It was making so much sense, where like it's not a curse or a punishment, it's a resource for us to use to ascend. But we have to use that ego as that resource and see it as such, and not villainize it, and therefore we can use it as that bridge, that ladder to our ultimate divine nature. And so it all made so much sense in that meditation, where I was like crying. I was like, I cannot believe it. So the serpent is actually, befriending you almost, in a sense, where it's like, this is what you're going to use to return to your divine nature. And it wasn't the devil and this, that, and the other. It just didn't make sense for me in that space, in that meditation. And so then I am walking after that, and everything is just like really settling, like, wow. So I'm going to use my ego to ascend back to my divine nature. And that's what original sin is. Thinking about Christ and Buddha, and then the experience where it drops in my head, and I'm sitting there, and you're in this whole big kind of commune, like kind of setup where there's all these little houses, all these, 50 different little rooms for people to sleep in and everything like that, little cottages. And so and then there's the massive meditation room, then there's the kitchen and the whole dining hall and everything. And so I'm walking back to my room, thinking about this serpent and original sin and everything. And right in front of my door is a snake, an actual snake. And I know we're in the desert. I get it. Like, oh yeah, wow, can't believe it. But it was such a spiritual sign to me that after that meditation, I am coming back to my room, and there's an actual snake there that is just chilling, trying to get into my room under my door. And people shoot it off. But for me, it was not just some snake visiting where people lived. It was the sign that you're on the right path here, and this is your encouragement here. And it was just such a profound experience, where I gained so much in that spiritual growth and expansion. It really was so touching. And there's more to be shared about this, but I just wanted to kind of share that metaphysical experience. So if you are considering doing that Vipassana retreat, it is incredible. And they don't even charge. You just make a donation. Normally these retreats cost thousands of dollars and stuff like that. And this was just so well done. I really look forward to going back one day and trying again. And I think it's a really great setup. I'm going to be hosting my own retreats eventually. I'm going to be taking some notes from their book because it is such a rewarding experience. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm here to help you out along your journey. And I think they have started them up again, post-COVID stuff. So definitely look into it. And again, I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you for watching this video and wishing you guys a tremendous amount of love upon your spiritual journey. We'll see you next time. Thanks.